put on here the 5 type, Corey, because it gives us a better view of all the radars. There you go. See how that kind of it exaggerates it a little bit, admittedly, but when we put it on this mode, it helps us see the broad picture really well, and that's what I wanted to show you was the center of Nicole now. It's north of Tampa, it's west of Daytona Beach, it's headed toward the Big Bend, and so we're starting to see that shift in the strongest bands, shifting near and north of Interstate 10, and the winds are shifting too, out of the southeast first over northeastern Florida and our beaches, but then will become more southerly as Nicole gets more to the north and west, the center of Nicole. Our winds will become more southerly, and that means the water that's been so deep in the St. Johns River from Putnam County all the way to downtown will continue to funnel into downtown with significant flooding, as we've seen with the reporters. We've got Emily Turner downtown. We've got a number of reporters on the coast reporting on the flooding and storm surge too, which now clearly is rivaling Ivan from 6 weeks ago. The river flooding is going to rival Irma back in 2017. We do now have a report apparently of a funnel cloud or a tornado, Garrett, on I-95 with this storm.
Yeah, just coming in, we have a report of a funnel cloud here crossing I-95. So this is before it would have gotten to north of the airport. There's the funnel cloud report coming in across I-95. No touchdown, but it was a report there of a funnel cloud with rapid low-level rotation, but no touchdown there. So we are seeing that. That's probably, maybe the Weather Service got that report and initiated this. So we are seeing that here now with at least a funnel cloud report out of this storm, Mike, as it continues moving off to the west here with the tornado warning in effect for another 3 minutes or so here with western Nassau County and also a sliver of northwestern Duval, but the circulation as well to the west now. And again, the heavy rain moving into Charlton County, Mike.
And I would think they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire. The cell has spread out. It's not near as tight as it was earlier. We're not seeing the wind indicating a circulation anymore, really. Sure, there is wind, but we're not seeing.
Tornado warning expired.
And there it is. Tornado warning expired. So tornado warning is no longer in effect. We can get rid of that banner. There it is. Nicely done, y'all, in the control room. So the tornado warning is expired. There are no warnings in effect now for the immediate area, but we do, of course, have tropical storm warnings, storm surge warnings, flash flood warnings, and flood warnings because we've got a lot of water out there. Some of it, a good deal of it, has fallen from the sky, but much of it is from the ocean at our beaches, the intracoastal, the St. Johns River. It's, of course, a mix of ocean and freshwater and brackish water, and the St. Johns River is going to become our focus this afternoon and tonight, and the flooding downtown, in addition to the next high tide cycle, the intracoastal and the beaches, which will be a little bit later this evening. We're reaching high tide right now downtown, Garrett.
Yeah, we got some storm reports. You see them on First Alert Doppler HD coming in from southeast Georgia as well now. Wanted to read those off. We do have the causeway to St. Simon's Island and Sea Island closed due to surge flooding, storm surge flooding here right now. And also Riverside Drive in Brunswick is flooded by storm surge. So we're getting some reports of the water rise in southeast Georgia now. So you're seeing some of that flooding here. Here's that storm report here on the causeway to the St. Simon's Island and Sea Island. And we're seeing that wind come in off the Atlantic for you and pushing that water. So we are seeing some surge flooding there now, and also getting a report down into Duval County from the emergency management. Inundation of 2 to 3 feet along Heckscher Drive near Blunt Island, and JSO is blocking traffic from proceeding along Heckscher Drive right now. So one of these storm reports there is what we're tracking here right now. So seeing some of that water rise here in Duval County up into Fernandina Beach. We're seeing the water on Front Street on First Alert Skycam network there, and also into Glenn County, Mike.
We're going to do a quick look at some of the sky cams, you guys, what we're seeing out there right now. It gives us a really good view, and then we'll get to some of the reporters. We'll get back to the news desk and cover some of the issues that we're dealing with this storm. This is St. Augustine, First Alert Skycam network. The water is gradually coming down. Now you can see the crosswalks. We couldn't see those earlier. There's even a little sun trying to peek out. It's breezy, but the wind's not as powerful as they were when the bands were moving through a little bit earlier today. High tide has passed. It will take a while for this water to recede and to get out, but it will this afternoon before the next high tide cycle this evening brings yet more water in it, but at least by then the winds will be out of the south. This is looking downtown. This is our South Bank First Alert Skycam network. This is the Main Street Bridge, and look at that water. Goodness gracious. Awfully high there. Now, high tide is right now within the next 2 minutes at this location will be high tide. So it will not cross the Main Street Bridge here, the water. It wouldn't appear in this particular high tide cycle. In fact, there goes a vehicle there. Remember that during Irma, it did. You couldn't cross the Main Street Bridge. Now, that may happen with the next high tide cycle, which will be between 11 p.m. and midnight tonight. So if you live in a flood-prone area along the St. Johns River and in and around downtown Riverside, San Marco, and you experience flooding during Irma, you're likely to experience flooding again this time around. And the next high tide cycle, I think, will even be more significant for downtown. This is St. Augustine Beach, First Alert Skycam Network. Still tremendous wave action, double-digit breakers, more than 10 feet. Look at them break over the seawall, water spreading into the parking lot. And, of course, there are some people out there taking a look. This is the Jax Beach Pier, and you're looking at the water here. Even though it's past high tide now, well past high tide, the water is making it all the way, running up all the way to the dunes here. I would assume, we don't have confirmation on it, I'm just guessing, that some of the dunes have been breached this morning with this strong east wind and so the tremendous wave action. It does look like the Jacksonville Beach Pier has fared pretty well, at least at this point. We also have a look at Fernandina Beach, First Alert Skycam Network, high tide here, and boy, you can see all the water here. Number of businesses here, of course, on the right side, the restaurant on the left, and this is the river flowing out of its banks now and filling the streets of Fernandina Beach. This too will come down here relatively shortly, gradually. And then you'll have another high tide cycle with flooding this evening in Fernandina Beach. I understand we have Robert. Where exactly is Robert? We're going to toss to him out in the field right now, and Robert's going to give us an update on his conditions and what he's seeing at the moment.
Yeah, Mike, right now we're seeing a lot of flooding in some of those low-lying side streets here in St. Augustine, just like what we see here behind us. Now, the reason I want to show you this first is because just on the other side of me is Villano Bridge, You can see right now shut down. Folks are being turned around. That's because Villano is essentially an island right now. A1A has been crumbling. You cannot get through over there. So they're shutting down the bridge, telling people to turn around because at this point there's not a whole lot of places to go. Now, just earlier we were speaking to a woman who has to work on the other side. She has a hotel over there that she works at. She was dropped off. She's from Putnam County. She was dropped off over here. She says anything in Putnam County was also impassable. Debris all over the place, a lot of flooding. And she waited outside here on the street corner for just more than an hour and a half to get to work. Eventually, the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office was able to get her over there. But if you're going out and about right now, and especially if you live over in Villano, you want to just stay put for the time being. Now, we have seen several FDOT crews going over to that side, trying to make a makeshift road at this point. But the deputy right here is telling some folks it could be days before this is fixed. Now, I want to take you back over to some of the flooding over here. You can see this Jeep driving through. Be careful with that. Folks that are driving through fast, it creates kind of a wake zone. It pushes water into people's homes. And that creates what could be a flooding situation for those homes, which normally would not be flooding until someone drives through it. If you have to drive through, of course, we always say, turn around, don't drown. It's better not to try it. But if you have to, and it's a little bit lower and you can see that and your car's maybe a little bit higher, just go slow. Several roads look like that. We had to drive all over the place before we could eventually find a spot where we felt safe getting to where we're at right now. But the situation in Villano, we had Princess Jeanne Severson over there earlier. You could see some of that road just crumbling away, of course, from all the surf and the waves pushing up so hard. Thankfully the rain has let up right now, but you still have the ocean really causing an issue with erosion, which was already a problem after Hurricane Ian. We're still seeing some bands of wind here and there. Of course, something we'll continue to keep an eye on here in St. Augustine. But for now, with local coverage you can count on in St. Augustine, I'm Robert Grant, Action News Jax.
Robert, thanks so much. Good job. Next, let's head over to an area that's known to flood during storms. Action News Jax' Ben Ryan is live from the Riverwalk in downtown Jacksonville. And Ben, it's high tide there right about now. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Phil, well, actually, we were moving around a little bit, actually, all throughout downtown from the Riverwalk. Then we kind of just want to see what else is going on. So we actually moved a little bit. We're on Marsh Street and Adams Street. We're in between the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and the Maxwell House right now. Take a look just down on the ground right now. So I'm off the street right now. Water, I would say, probably about a little further up the ankle. But, again, not in the street. There's going to be a couple dips as I make my way back here a little bit. So there's actually two different dips as we make our way into the street, and then it's getting even further. So this is probably knee level or so again on Marsh Street and Adams Street. And take a look behind me because you can see it goes across the entire way onto the other side of Maxwell House as well, which I believe is right near where Intuition is. And then if you look behind me over here, just off to my left, I'll have Bo take a quick pan here. You see all the concrete that's here? or water, I should say. It's all supposed to be concrete. And I was actually speaking with an employee in this general area. He said he's never seen it like this before. And then just off to my left, there's a parking lot right over here as we're kind of showing some things off right now. A FedEx truck actually tried to make its way through. Somehow it did. Would not recommend trying to drive in the flooded waters. There's another truck that's making his way through right now, but we're keeping an eye on this, seeing how it's how it keeps on coming up. But again, knee level when you make your way into the street. For now, we'll send it back to you guys in studio for coverage you can count on in downtown. I'm Ben Ryan, Action News Jax.
All right, Ben, and let's take another look around. It's high tide right now, according to the First Alert Weather Team, along the St. Johns River, which means when the area is saturated, some certain areas downtown, the South Bank can flood. Let's get right on out to Action News Jax. Emily Turner, who's been taking us a tour along the River Walk as well this morning and this afternoon. Now, Emily, you just got there. What are you seeing right now? Looks like that water's still rising.
Yeah, for where I am, Dawn, is basically across the river from Ben, just to give you some perspective. Right at the water taxi, the Chart House restaurant, for those of you familiar with the area. This river walk goes down to the Duval County Public Schools District building, and you can see the waves coming up over the edge. And it is a soggy walk, if you were to make it, all the way down to DCPS. And not just in this direction, but it's actually a little bit worse as it curves out past the Chart House here as you're trying to get onto the floating dock. The floating dock actually, because of the water levels above where the Riverwalk is, you can see all the debris that these waves have strewn over the Riverwalk as you're headed down there to the Chart House. And over here, you can hardly really get onto the Riverwalk because it's soggy and flooded there, and all of the river down here behind it. It's usually pretty wet, not nearly this wet. You can see the palm trees halfway submerged all the way up to the fronds on this one. Now look, from where I'm standing, if this is high tide, this isn't terrible. It's not affecting any of those apartments, these buildings, they're okay. But here's the really concerning part for me. All right, this wind is whipping pretty solidly, and it's coming this direction. That is the opposite direction that all of this water is supposed to flow now, which is to say out of the river towards the ocean. And if it's going to have to fight all of this wind, that's not going to make for a very good situation as we get more rain and then the tides come back in, especially for this part where the river narrows. In fact, if we walk out here a little bit, I just heard some bumping around. It looks like, oh, there it is. The water taxi sign just blew off and is bumping around on this metal dock. But you can see the waves all the way coming up, not only over this dock, but down the Riverwalk all the way around, especially as it comes out to that point right in front of the Main Street Bridge. And all of these waves are just pushing that water back up in the opposite direction of where it's supposed to be flowing now that we're going to head towards low tide. But again, if this is the worst of it for right now, that's great. The bad news is if all of this can't escape and we get more rain and the wind continues to push in this direction, that's the part that I think is going to be particularly concerning that I'm sure Mike and the First Alert Weather Team can talk more about. For now, we're live on the South Bank. For local coverage you can count on, Emily Turner, Action News Jax.
And Emily, that's exactly what Chief Meteorologist Mike Burge has been saying. The next high tide is between 11 and midnight, and the winds are very concerning. So there could be some more flooding in the area. Nicole is not done with us yet. Our live coverage continues right now.
Action News Jax, Jake Stofan live in St. Augustine. And as we heard from Mike and the gang, the water's receding there, but it's still high, Jake.
It absolutely is still high, but thankfully, if you take a look over here, you can see about to where the tide got up to, and it looks like these businesses were spared. I took a peek into City Gate Distillery, and it looks like water didn't breach through those doors. But if you take a little further out here, you can see all of A1A pretty much underwater. I'm just on the little bit of dry ground here. There's actually, not sure if you can see that, but there's a guy pulling another guy in a canoe. A lot of people out here, surprisingly. I talked with one group of locals who came out during Ian, and they say this is about as bad as it got during Ian. So hopefully this is the worst we see today. The Castillo de San Marco has a brand new moat for the time being. If you take a look over here, this is normally all a grassy area, but completely underwater. If you look at that bench there, I mean, you can tell the water level is probably about a foot and a half high at this point. you definitely want to be careful. You don't want to be walking out around here. The wind has really started to pick up in the last few minutes. We weren't seeing much. And honestly, if you're trying to get into downtown St. Augustine, you have very few options. Nearly every inroad is flooded, and that's kind of what took us so long to get up, was just trying to find a way to get out here. We'll be out here for the rest of the day and into the evening, right here on Action News Jax, bringing you all of the latest. For local coverage you can count on live in St. Augustine, I'm Jake Stofan. Action News Jax.
Jake, of course, a lot of businesses closed in St. Augustine, including the Castilla de San Marcos, right in back of Jake right there. We also got some news. Garrett Biedenbaugh said US 17 at the base of the Sidney Lanier Bridge is closed due to flooding there, so do watch out. Meanwhile, if you live in St. Johns County, you're being asked to shelter in place.
And let's show you why. Let's go live right out to Action News Jax. Megan Moriarty right now in the downtown area where, Megan, you have seen a lot of flooding. Dry where you are right now, but what are you seeing?
Don and Phil, we're also seeing some road closures. So you can see right here behind me, St. Augustine police, they are blocking two entrances to this road right here. This is San Marco Avenue. It's right off of Ponce de Leon Boulevard. There are some businesses down there, and there is a neighborhood right over here to the left. Now, it's difficult to see just how deep that water is, and that's the problem with all of this. When you see that kind of flooding water, you don't know how deep it is. Now, about an hour ago, we were showing you some people who got stuck in water. When we were over on King Street, we showed you that golf cart that got stuck, that truck that got stuck. So when you're seeing water like this, you should not drive through it. You should also not stand in it either. There could be animals in it. There could be debris, things like that. Our photographer, Mark, who is behind the camera right now, is just complaining to me that he has ants in his shoes, and that's because he went through standing water. So don't be like Mark. Be safe. If you see any water like that, turn around. And again, there is a shelter in place here, so stay home if you can. For local coverage you can count on live in St. Augustine, Megan Moriarty, Action News Jax.
Okay, well, better ants in your shoes than your pants, but still, be careful when
Bad.
you
It
go
can
out there, right?
hurt.
Yeah,
It can
that's right.
hurt. Action News Jax has crews fanned down all over town, so we give you the best views to see the damage and the effects from the storm.
All over the region, too. Action News Jax Ben Beckers and Anastasia Island on A1A, and Ben, some rough winds and surf out there right now.
Yeah, Phil, Dawn, I'm not too far from where Megan Moriarty is, across the Bridge of Lions. I'd say a few miles or so, and you can see, as always, there's three things you can count on in life: death, taxes, and this road flooding in any kind of rain event. And as you can see, A1A currently flooded out here. You see some of the green cones up. You see, actually, as FWC driving up the road this way, a lot of 4x4s coming and going. That's about the only way you're going to get through A1A currently. Also see some fire rescue trucks make their way through here because, again, you need a higher elevation off the ground, that clearance to be able to make it here. A number of pickup trucks have kind of come through, at least down this street here, but to give you a kind of a broader idea of even where I am. Okay, this is A1A. Bridge of Lions is that way. And Davis Shores over here, infamous Davis Shores. And we wanted to go to Davis Shores when we came up this road, but as you can see, Davis Shores, there's no way we're getting there right now. Davis Shores, that is a road to Davis Shores. And as you know, Davis Shores often floods that area. I was there yesterday talking to people who were concerned about flooding, and with good reason, because whether it's a hurricane, a tropical storm, a thunderstorm, or a sprinkle, Davis Shores deals with flooding on a constant basis. And that's the road going to Davis Shores at this very time. Over here to my left, you see a number of people hanging out, kind of checking things out. And we'll talk to one of them here. So, what brought you out?
We don't speak English.
Oh, you don't?
No, but they have the house in the... He have his house right there in the island. Maybe
his house is down there? Is it in danger?
It's flooding, I think. It's the last time it was flooding too.
Okay, well, that's a concern, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's something to keep an eye on. People here watching with some worry. They're worried about their homes. They're worried about vehicles. Another thing about Davis Shores, Anastasia Island, the alligator farm isn't too far from here. When I was driving around yesterday, one of the things I noticed, a lot of people park their car on higher ground. They park actually at the alligator farm to get it out of Davis Shores so those cars don't flood out. That's kind of a local trick, right? If you live around here, that's something to keep in mind when people live here. That's local knowledge, if you will. So anyway, that's the story here at A1A. It is flooded. Hopefully the water recedes soon. We'll be hanging out to see how long that's going to take. Maybe we'll take another ride someplace else. We'll let you know. Reporting live, back to you.
All right, thank you, Ben, and we'll check back with him in just a little bit. In the meantime, we are finding a lot of folks want to get out doing some sightseeing. That's pretty dangerous. This is video from an Action News Jax view of a car going through flooded San Marco right now. Remember, you shouldn't drive through standing water. As officials always say, when you see that standing water, turn around, don't drown. It could be bad news for you. It could be bad news for your vehicle and for rescuers if they have to come out there as well.
Look at this, too. New viewer video into our newsroom of this boat fire in the Ortega River. Looks like a catamaran, doesn't it? It's on fire on Lakeside Drive, right off of that, near the overpass there. We're working to learn if anyone is hurt in all this or how it caught fire, too. But we understand that a fireboat was brought in to go ahead and put those flames out. So right now, it looks like that fire is out. Just trying to get to the bottom of it.
Now, Action News Jax First Alert Weather.
And I'm First Alert meteorologist Gary Bedenbaugh. It's 11:31. Good morning to you. We're still dealing with Nicole. We've been here for hours for you here live on Action News Jax. The whole First Alert weather team in the building here now. Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish on WOKV at the moment. We are tracking with meteorologist Corey Sima and meteorologist Trevor Gibbs as well. Here's First Alert Doppler HD. We are tracking for you here across the area this morning. We'll go over some storm reports. We're getting in here to the First Alert Weather Center. Right now, though, still gusty in downtown Jacksonville here on 5 Suite First Alert Doppler HD as these showers continue to stream in off the Atlantic, though the heaviest weather is now to the north of downtown Jacksonville, but still some gusty showers is what we're tracking here for you right now with numerous storm reports. Even had a funnel cloud report crossing I-95. We're here with you on that tornado warning that we have not seen confirmation so far of anything touching down. Now that band of showers here, now a heavy band of showers crossing into Charlton County, and again, this will slowly continue lifting to the north with the most intense rains here. Another band of heavy rain. Let's track this one, Corey, going into Jekyll Island and also to Cumberland Island. But we're going to go over those storm reports as well. Brunswick, 11:39. Woodbine, Georgia, 11:47. White Oak area by 11:49. We are seeing this. Any wind with this, Corey? We'll track this here and see if there's any wind on First Alert Doppler HD in terms of anything rotating right now. Any spot to see a potential isolated waterspout or tornado would be up here lifting through Nassau County and into southeast Georgia now. Right now, some wind, some higher winds coming in on First Alert Doppler HD, closing in on Cumberland Island, but Jekyll Island looking good. So far, there'll be some wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour. All right, let's track also for you with meteorologist Corey Sima. Some of these storm reports, Corey, we've gotten in, you folks in southeast Georgia for Glenn County, now beginning to see the reports come in of the storm surge there, Corey.
Yeah, we've gotten several of these in just within about the last 10 to 15 minutes to the First Alert Weather Center from the National Weather Service. There are some reports of storm surge in Brunswick. I'm going to read through a couple of these, including most notably the Sydney Lanier Bridge. Just within the last 3 minutes from Brunswick, emergency manager reports storm surge over the entrance area to the Jekyll Island Causeway. So that's south of the Sydney Lanier Bridge, headed to Jekyll Island. Heads up for that. We also have storm surge East Beach Causeway on St. Simon's Island closed due to storm surge flooding. This is Ocean Road and Bruce Drive also flooded. Those of you in and around Brunswick and St. Simon's Island, a little more familiar with those areas. And then in Brunswick itself, this is US 17 closed in Brunswick from the Sydney Lanier Bridge. I just lost it. To Parkwood Drive. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here just to give you a little frame of reference. This is Brunswick. You see all the icons there, the wave. Those are those storm reports and those surge reports as well. So I'm going to stop it here. This is US 17 is closed from the base of the Sydney Lanier Bridge to Parkwood Drive. So the Sydney Lanier Bridge is right here. And then Parkwood Drive is right about here. So this is a decent portion of US 17 that is closed, basically right there in downtown Brunswick. If you have to get out and drive, folks, take your time. Make sure to plan for the potential for closed roads or flooding. If you don't know how deep the water is over the road, Turn around, don't drown. You've heard us say it before, and it's not bad advice. If you don't have to get out and about, I'd encourage you not to. Basically, just the easiest thing to do today. We have received a few wind gust reports as well, as high about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Definitely tropical storm force wind gusts. We have sustained winds around 30 to 40 miles per hour as well. But our main focus as the rain starts to come to an end is going to be the shift in the wind and then the St. Johns River. And let's talk more about the river with Trevor.
All right, thanks, Corey. I'm going to get to the St. Johns River in just a moment, but staying in southeastern Georgia at St. Simon's Island, major flooding is now occurring at that gauge where the level is 3.67 feet. This might be a little hard to see here, but it's in the pink. For reference, the record at that station is 3.9 feet. That was Irma in 2017. Matthew in 2016 was 3.18, and now we're at 3.67. So we've eclipsed the level that was observed in Matthew. We are close to the level that was observed in Irma at St. Simon's Island, and it is still rising. So further to the south, let's go back to Fernandina Beach, where there's some good news in that we have crested in that water level for this high tide cycle. So the red line that you see here is that observed water level. It is starting to go down, so we're about to go back into that moderate flood stage, down from major flood stage, which was earlier today as that high tide has passed. Let's go over to Mayport, where we've also crested there. It is coming down slowly. We are still in the moderate flood stage there. This is at the Bar Pilot's dock there at Mayport. And a couple more. Excuse me, at Dames Point, we're still in major flooding stage there as we are about to crest. It looks like it's finally starting to level off a little bit, but still well into the major flood category. This is at Dames Point, and we're going to see a couple more instances of this where we have that wind coming out of the south as we've been talking about, and that is going to continue to push those water levels pretty high. The last one I want to show you right now is at the Buckman Bridge. This is I-295, and focus on this red line in the middle. That's the observed water level. It is now well into the major flood status category and still rising. So we are still going to see those high water levels, and especially later today, we have another high tide cycle tonight. That wind's going to come out of the south and push all that water. And even though the rain might be coming to an end, we're still going to be concerned with that flooding. Garrett?
Yeah, so we are tracking it here. In fact, we'll go ahead and go through the hour-by-hour forecast here real quick. And then I got some pictures to show you from St. Johns County. Here is that main band of rain lifting to the north through Jacksonville, beginning to see drying out here now into the afternoon. A few showers will continue, but then that south wind picks up as we head into, especially tonight, overnight, and into tomorrow for Friday. We're still going to see likely a few showers redevelop on Friday on the south side of the system before we go into the afternoon and begin to dry out. And then we can begin to enjoy our weekend, and we'll have an offshore breeze there setting up, cleaning up the surf just a bit. Of course, you have to watch out for debris, of course, if you're heading out there to surf. But we also have those photos I've been telling you about, and this is coming in from St. Johns County. The Sheriff's Office tweeted this. This is a compromised road from some storm surge. I believe this is Volano Beach, 3400 block, if my memory serves correctly, A1A, Coastal Highway. And this is what's there right now. So the roadway is going to have to be repaired there. You see not much blocking it from going in from the water here in the Atlantic. So this is the first time we're showing you these photos here on Action News Jax, and this is what we're getting in here now. So some repairs going to have to be done to A1A. We've been telling you about this, that this was that threat, and here it is being realized in St. Johns County. So we'll continue tracking that. Of course, we've got down in southern end of St. Johns County and Summer Haven as well. We'll continue to update you, of course, here in the Action News Jax First Alert Weather Center. It's 11:38. Now back to the news desk.
All right, very good. Thank you, Gary. We've been monitoring, of course, the beach conditions all morning long for you.
That's right. And we want to check conditions now out at Jacksonville Beach. Let's go live out to Jessica Barreto, who's been out there for hours at this point. And Jessica, you've seen a lot of sea foam out there. Ben Becker calls it Florida snow.
So at least conditions have improved slightly out here. I do feel that the wind has lessened just a little bit. Still a lot of sea foam, like you mentioned, but the rain, it's kind of coming back here and there. There is good news, though, that we are seeing signs of the shoreline now. You'll remember about a couple hours ago, we were showing this area was completely swallowed up. by the rising tide. Now we can see the shoreline once again. However, preventative measures did make a difference. Where we're standing now, this is where that mound of sand that was about 4 feet high used to be. It's now been reduced almost to half its length, and I do believe that did prevent a lot of water from spilling on over. We're basically in the main entrance of Jax Beach by the lifeguard building. We haven't seen folks in the water, so that's good news. We have seen a lot of bystanders who wanted to come and check out these conditions in person. Now, we spoke to a few out-of-towners who were in Jacksonville. They'd never been in a storm before. They came out when that water was pretty high, and those winds, they were very shifty. So take a listen to their reaction when they walked up and saw the conditions out here.
When I was here on Monday, it was way out there. And there's people around running up and down, but it's gone, so it's come up so far.
Yeah, you always hear about the storm surge, right? But I've never actually seen it. So actually to see that storm surge is pretty amazing.
And again, back out here live, you can see a little bit of that shoreline. However, the water does remain very, very dangerous. Now, according to the city, it is life-threatening, and these red flag conditions are going to remain in place not just today, but through Monday. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about getting in the water. These conditions, even though the storm is letting up just a little bit, these conditions are not going to improve for a little while, so you're going to want to plan ahead for that. For local coverage you can count on in Jax Beach, I'm Jessica Bretto, Action News Jax.
All right, thanks, Jess. And Action News Jax, again, has crews fanned out all over town, so you know exactly what's going on in our viewing area.
Let's go over to Ben Becker. He's in Davis Shores. And, Ben, you were talking earlier that when a bad storm moves in, that's an area that's guaranteed to flood, and it did not disappoint again.
You're absolutely right. You know what, Phil? We were just up there about 10 minutes ago or so talking to you, right? So we walked our way down here into Davis Shores because we couldn't drive. And right now, the roads of Davis Shores are rivers. You can see a trash can on its side. You see a political sign that's hanging on by a thread. The water, and I'm going to make my way out here just a little bit. You can see as it comes up on my boots that we're about 1.5 feet, 2 feet. I'm not even into the street. This is just someone's driveway. You see a man here who's actually trying to wade his way through the water right now. Hey, what, are you going to your house? Yeah. Is everything all right? Okay, is your truck okay?
Yeah. I rented a U-Haul, filled it full of furniture, took it down there, and I'll move it back tomorrow.
All right, so there you go. So he knows his way around here. He moved his truck out of Davis Shores on higher ground that way. That's where we're parked right now along A1A because you just can't bring a car down here. Except if we had the first storm tracker, we would be able to bring it down here. But we don't have that today. But that's okay. We can make it as far as we can go. Now I'm going to take you a little bit of a walk. And you can see just the water making its way into people's yards. This isn't up into someone's house. It's not to their house, so that's good news. Walk down here, it's a little bit of a different story, though. First and foremost, to my left, you'll see some of this vinyl fencing has been blown down because of Nicole. You have this fence here, and you have that fence there. Then off to my left, you can see just, again, the road is a river. And the water is coming up this person's driveway and right to their front step. It wouldn't take a whole lot more to get above that step and into their home. And there's someone I talked to during Hurricane Ian that experienced that very same thing in Davis Shores where the water got up so high it went and washed through their house. Okay? Now this water is actually, let me take another few steps here. The water is actually into the garage. So not only up to the garage, knock the trash can over, by the way, but the water is into the garage, all the way back into the back. And if I walk out this way, you can see how far, okay, you can just see how far the water's come up, okay? I'm only halfway up their driveway, or down their driveway, whatever way you want to define it. And that's the street, this is the driveway, and it's a good foot of water right here. And again, as I walk, the water just making the way into the garage. A lot of garages around here, they have down and they have the sandbags blocking the water. But the people who live here decided, you know what? We're not even going to bother with the sandbags. We're just going to raise up and concede. Hey, how you doing? Hey, let me ask you something. What is going on? So you decided not to get any sandbags or what?
We don't need a sandbag.
You don't? How come?
Because it's just garage stuff.
Is it like this all the time?
Yeah, if a hurricane all the times.
So how long have you lived here?
It'd be about 6 years.
6 years? Did you know it would be like this in Davis Shores when you moved here?
Yeah, a couple times is for the hurricane every time.
Did the real estate agent tell you, hey, it may flood here every once in a while?
Yeah, I'm not very good English.
No, you're great. Hey, listen, I want to talk more to you. Listen, hey, so have you ever thought about moving from Davis Shores?
From the what?
Have you ever thought about leaving here because of all the flooding?
No.
No?
We've been here for long enough.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes. Overall, this is occasionally, it doesn't happen that often, but we can deal with this.
Yeah. But, you know, right now, if you wanted to leave, you can't leave. Does that bother you at all? Or just kind of a nice day at home with me as your special guest?
It's not a nice day, but we had to learn how to deal the stress. Yeah, we did this many times. So as long as our life is not threatening, we will be able to handle.
Has the water ever gotten into the house?
Not yet. We're lucky enough. Yeah.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. But if it happens, it happens.
And that's just what you have to deal with here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You wouldn't live anyplace else.
No. We have a plan to have a second home, whatever. But right now, we're fine. We've been living here over 30 years. So.
In Austin, yes.
All right. Well, stay safe. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't bring anything with me as a gift, like some flowers or bundt cake or something. But maybe next time. So there you have it. They're staying safe. They're I'm not saying enjoying themselves, but at least that they're just taking it for what it is. They got flooded water here in Davis Shores, and they'll just deal with it and wait for the water to recede. Reporting live from Davis Shores, Ben Becker, Action News Jax, back to you.
Well, Ben, if they don't have it, I think they would appreciate you giving some flood insurance, possibly, if they certainly don't now. Hopefully they do, though, because they live in that type of area, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It should be mandatory. We continue our live team coverage right now of Tropical Storm Nicole for you, and staying there in St. Johns County.
Action News Jack's Jake Stofan, live in St. Augustine now. Jake, there was a police presence there, or was it emergency responders?
Yeah, we just saw this police car come by, and actually, if you take a look right here, that is EMTs working on what appears to be a young gentleman, a young woman. It's unclear, but if you take a look at this video, this is what we just captured earlier. What appeared to be a young man running down through the floodwaters, meeting that police officer, and that police officer, before he went to meet that gentleman, took a tool out of his trunk. It appeared like it was a defibrillator at first. I thought maybe it was just some sort of tool to jumpstart a vehicle, but just based on the urgency of that person who was running out to meet him, it seemed clear that was some kind of medical emergency. Unclear whether it is directly storm related or possibly someone just experienced cardiac arrest or something like that being out here. But it goes to show, while we see a lot of people out here walking their dogs, kind of not taking this seriously, obviously accidents can happen, power lines can be down. This is not water you should be running in. A young kid right there probably shouldn't be doing that. And that video we just showed you, is the proof is in the pudding. Obviously, there's a real risk to being out here right now. If you can stay indoors, do so. We'll be out here for the rest of the evening to bring you updates and hopefully no more video like that.
Absolutely, Jake. We hope everybody's okay. We do have some calls out to try and figure out exactly what was going on in that particular case. And as we learn it, we'll bring it to you. Well, we continue our coverage now in St. Johns County. Action News Jax Marcine Joseph is live right now from Crescent Beach. And Marcine, crews just reopened parts of A1A. A short time ago, we told our viewers that parts of Volano Beach and the roadway on A1A was closed off because road was washing away.
Well, Don, just like how traffic is, it's always ever flowing. And now we thought it was reopened, and take a look right now. Actually, they shut it down. We only got a couple of streets away, and just to see that they re-shut it down because of the water. Take a look at the flooding here. We're just seeing a lot of water on the roads. We know that high tide is gone, but again, drivers have been trying to get down towards southbound on A1A for those who are trying to come to mainland, Marineland, or go to Summer Haven. We've been trying to go to Summer Haven for the past.
Jack's First Alert Weather.
And I'm First Alert meteorologist Garrett Beaton. Well, we have a tornado warning now for Camden County here. Sorry, Marcine, we do have a tornado warning here in Camden County, so we're breaking into our own coverage here right now on Action News Jax. This is coming in just off the Atlantic, right near, and it's closing in on Woodbine, Georgia in just a bit. This is a very rural area just past Cumberland Island, and then going into the I-95 corridor here around Woodbine, Georgia or so. Again, this is a new tornado warning in effect for Camden County. We're going to go over to Chief Meteorologist Mike Burris. Mike, we do have this new brand new tornado warning now in effect that does include the I-95 corridor here in Camden County.
Yeah, and we aren't surprised, right, Garrett? We saw these cells, Trevor and I and Garrett and you and Corey, we were all talking about these circulations near and offshore moving west-northwest, and there it is. It's showing up pretty strongly here, just moving into Camden County. That's a classic tropical circulation now that may contain a tornado. Let's time that for you. West-northwest bound, 50 miles per hour, 50-plus miles per hour. So heads up along the I-95 corridor, Woodbine and nearby areas. It's, again, a fairly, well, it is a highly rural area, but there will be impacts here. Fairview Church neighborhood at 11:54, Forest View at 11:54, Ceylon at 11:58, Woodbine then at 12:02, just afternoon. 12:02 now is just 11 minutes away, and that might not even be fast enough. That might be even a little it might end up being a little faster than that. But you can see how the cell is right here, and it hooks back around in here. It's couched back in here's where the circulation is, and this is pretty classic when you see an indication on radar like this. So travelers, people on the highway, I-95, and we are simulcasting, it looks like, on 104.5 WOKV. If you're on I-95, traveling on I-95 and listening, and you're headed to the Florida-Georgia border or north, that's an area you want to just take a break. There's a rest stop right there at the border, at the Florida-Georgia border. You can hang out there for you don't need to stop for long. 10 minutes, get refreshed anyway, get ready to go, and then this cell will have moved through and we'll be passing Interstate 95. So a tornado warning is in effect for Camden County in Georgia. That includes a highly rural area, a lot of campgrounds here in the intracoastal of Camden County, crossing I-95 into Woodbine, crossing Highway 17 and 110 into Billyville at 11:53, Halifax at 11:54, into Woodbine. That's an update. What we've done is speed it up, right, Corey?
This is the leading edge of the rain. This is when the heavy rain is going to begin, Woodbine 11:55.
All right, so what we showed you earlier was the circulation. This is now the leading edge of the heaviest rain and wind, so Woodbine at 11:55. And when we're talking wind, we're talking gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour on the leading edge of this. White Oak at 11:56 and Scarlet then at 11:58. Let's track the circulation again, moving into Camden County. There it is. It's still visible. This is one of the stronger circulations, I would argue, that we've had in a while. Probably even stronger than the one that triggered the tornado warning over northern Duval County.
Last 60 miles per hour. Do we need to go faster?
I think that's good. I think you're right on there, Corey. So 60 miles per hour, moving to the west-northwest, heads up Woodbine. Remember, during a tornado warning, to stay in the lowest part of the building that you are in, protect your head and face, stay away from windows, get out of mobile homes, and do not get into an automobile. Into Forest View is the circulation at 11:54. Possible tornado occurring with this storm. Ceylon at 11:57, and there's Woodbine again. We've been consistent on that about noon or slightly thereafter, 12:01, and there's where that bright color is where we see the possible tornado. That's why the tornado warning has been issued, and this will now race west-northwest across Camden County, I-95, and then into the Woodbine area over just the next few minutes as these are moving really fast. This is our primary concern now through the next hour or two. Will be southeast Georgia. That's where the highest risk will be for severe storms and tornadoes like we're seeing now versus, say, Jacksonville and northeastern Florida, where the threat now is much, much lower. That icon, tornado icon, that's a funnel cloud that was reported with our last tornado warning around 11 o'clock this morning, not too far from the International Airport. I'm also a little curious about the southern end of that line. Woodbine near the Florida-Georgia border, but you can see there are other cells moving west-northwest. This is the tornado warning here, but coming up on Kingsland is a pretty intense cell as well, racing west-northwest. So heads up Kingsland for some strong wind with this cell that's just passed through Kings Bay Base and St. Mary's. This will race to the west-northwest, producing high winds in Kingsland in just a few minutes at 11:57, into Crandall at 11:55, Independent Church neighborhood at 12:03, and Tompkins at 12:03. It's to its immediate north. And we're not seeing a circulation there. That's a good call on that, Corey. Looking for a circulation. We're not seeing that. We go back to the north to our tornado warning. I'm going to take it to Garrett here in just a minute. There's a lightning strike. We haven't seen a whole lot of lightning today. That's an indication of a really strong tropical cell here now. And it's that back edge where we have a possible tornado. What I want to do is put on here the debris tracker, you guys. So this is the wind, and that's the circulation, pretty prevalent. And then this is what we call the debris tracker, and this shows where there might be debris lofted by a tornado, for example, up into the air. And when you see uniform colors like this, it's indicating that there is not debris at this moment. It still could happen, may have happened earlier, may happen still late. There's an update. We're not seeing a debris ball with this tornado at this point, which would seem to indicate, at least initially, that there is not at this point a tornado on the ground. But it's indicated by radar, and we certainly have a circulation in the air. That's why when we go back to the winds here, that's why the tornado warning was issued. That's what this is. This is a circulation in the clouds, counterclockwise, that can lead to tornadoes, and that's why the tornado warning has been issued now, and this will continue westbound to I-95 and then Woodbine. Again, heads up Woodbine in particular and nearby areas, and as this moves to the west, crosses I-95, it won't take long. It's going to be to I-95 in the next 2 to 4 minutes, and then it's to Woodbine in about 5 minutes. There we are again, tracking that circulation, and that's going to pop up now to show us that this circulation is near Forest View now, Ceylon at noon, Halifax at 12:02, and there's Woodbine still very near noon or shortly thereafter, now indicating at about 12:04, but Woodbine's already in the heavy rain and gusty winds that are in advance of this circulation. Remember, tropical tornadoes have a tendency to be obscured by that rain and wind. They're hard to see. They're not very visible. They move very fast, so that makes them particularly dangerous in situations like this. And there's that back end, Garrett, where we're seeing that circulation moving into Camden County, a little bit more into Camden County right now.
So if you're anywhere in between the Dover Bluff area and the Harriet's Bluff area, that's where we're tracking this here on the Action News Jax First Alert Storm Analyst. This is the rain on the left side. This is the wind that we're tracking, just like Mike was showing you here on our First Alert Storm Analyst. Winds around 25 to 30 miles per hour. We're tracking here a little bit of that circulation right there is where we're tracking here for you. There's Woodbine, Georgia, I-95, Brunswick at the top of the screen, and we're getting an update here. And again, some broad rotation here, not as tight as it was when the first warning was issued, and we're not seeing any signs of debris at the moment. We're getting another update there as it moves minute by minute. This is the area we're watching right in here, especially with the area purple right there. Let's go ahead and check the debris tracker again. Meteorologist Trevor Gibbs is tracking this for us here on our First Alert Storm Analyst. Not seeing anything of note, so that's at least some good news as we turn the velocity data back on, the wind data back, with this tornado warning that is in effect until 12:15 p.m. for portions of Camden County. That includes the I-95 corridor and also includes Woodbine, Georgia. You're not involved in this in Jekyll Island or St. Simons Island or Brunswick, but this is the area of rotation that is continuing to move in a rural section of Camden County at the moment, but it is heading to I-95 and into the Woodbine, Georgia area if it does hold together in terms of the rotation. So there's that classic radar you're used to seeing with the raindrops. That's what we're showing on the left-hand side of the screen. Same thing on the right-hand side with the wind. So again, Mike, we are seeing this, a little bit of that broad rotation still here on our First Alert Storm Analyst.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be quite as tight as it was, that circulation, when the tornado warning was issued a few minutes ago. The tornado warning stays in effect until 12:15. I suspect we'll see that, first of all, the east part of it shaved off because this is moving quickly to the west and to the northwest, and then likely discontinued before, and there's an update. So they have shaved off just the eastern edge of that. It now goes from the west edge of the intracoastal, if you will, near Harriet's Bluff and nearby spots there. We do have a couple lightning strikes that have popped up again, so this is an intense cell. Certainly bears monitoring, and the portion of the storm that might be producing a tornado is right in here. As Corey has stopped that loop, and there you can see it correlates with the bright greens. Woodbine, you're already seeing heavy rain and strong wind. That's on the leading edge of the cell. The part that's most dangerous and that could do the most damage is right in here. That's the circulation. It's moving west-northwest, so it is right now a little more than 7 miles from Woodbine. It's moving at 60 miles per hour. So obviously it's not far away. At 11:59 right now, it'll be in the Woodbine vicinity between noon and 12:05. So over just the next few minutes, you need to act quickly. Get into a safe place. Lowest part of the building that you're in, away from any windows. An interior hallway or bathroom typically is the best shelter during a tornado warning. Of course, in our area of northeast Florida and southeast Georgia, we do not have basements. So you focus on the lowest floor of the building that you're in, underneath something sturdy. Get out of mobile homes and do not get into an automobile. This is where that circulation is. Woodbine now a little more than 5 to 7 miles away. Let's track it, Corey, as this moves west-northwestbound, 60 miles per hour, racing across I-95 over just the next couple of minutes. Corey's going to track that circulation and move it across 95, Highway 17 into Woodbine now over just the next few minutes. And there it comes out to be Woodbine at 12:04. So just within just a few minutes here, there's a little tiny town of Billyville at 12:02, Scarlett at about 12:07. The circulation will be near you. It has moved inland from the ocean, and as most tropical circulations do, they start to lose a little bit of their identity. Once they start to move in a little bit, they become more broad, and there you can see right in near where that notch is where we're concerned about the circulation. And the very heavy rain and wind out ahead extend all the way up and down I-95 from Glynn County, west of Brunswick, all the way down to Kingsland. Behind that, there are multiple other cells that are moving quickly to the west-northwest too that will have the potential to produce strong winds, some severe weather, and maybe an isolated tornado like we're seeing now. North of the Florida-Georgia border, south of the Florida-Georgia border, there's still wind from Nicole, and there'll be some occasional rain, but it's not near as persistent or consistent, and the tornado risk is quite a bit lower now, much lower, south of I-10, and decreasing north of Interstate 10. Corey?
All right, this just in from the National Weather Service, Mike. The circulation over Camden County has weakened. We have seen that and shown that just within the last few minutes. Woodbine, though, you're still under this tornado warning. The National Weather Service is indicating there's another strong circulation over the waters east of Fernandina Beach, moving toward Cumberland Island. And we were just talking about this probably about a half hour ago. We were looking at these cells that were out over the Atlantic that are tracking up toward the coast of southeast Georgia. Giving you the first alert on this. There is another one. I'm not sure if they're talking about this cell right here or maybe this one here that is east of Cumberland Island. We're going to have to watch these very closely over about the next hour or so as they stream up from the Atlantic, move onshore. That's when they have the potential for producing water spouts and even tornadoes. We saw it earlier this morning in St. Johns County when we had a tornado warning in effect for St. Augustine. No tornado confirmed with that, though. Now, the areas of rain, like Mike just mentioned, have mainly shifted north of I-10 and north of the Florida-Georgia border. And most notably right now, we have the tornado warning in effect for central Camden County, including Woodbine, until 10:15. A severe storm capable of producing a tornado is located 8 miles east of Woodbine. Well, that was a couple of minutes ago. And because of the very fast movement of these showers and this even a thunderstorm, you don't have a lot of time to act if these storms are headed your way. Okay, we also have a lot of storm surge reports, a lot of wind reports with these areas as well. So I'm going to focus on Woodbine here. And it looks like the most intense or the heaviest rain is now moving into Woodbine. So I'm going to stop this. And then let's look at the wind here. There's still a broad circulation. You're looking for the green coloring and the red coloring to get really bright and get close together. And right now, we don't really have that. We have some of the red that gets a little bit brighter here, and then we have some of the green that gets a little brighter closer to Interstate 95. I look at this and there's nothing right here immediately that is screaming at me. There is a potential tornado right now. But even with a broad circulation, there is still the potential for a tornado to form at any time. So that's why we watch this really closely as the center of the circulation is it's probably crossing I-95 right now and moving into Woodbine. These showers and storms are moving at 50 to 60 miles per hour. That's almost the speed that we drive on the interstate highway. So that is very fast. And the radar is sometimes a little bit behind. So we have to interpolate a little bit as the rain is moving. So the heaviest rain now is about to leave Woodbine. This changes, evolves very, very quickly with these fast-moving tropical systems. We've been talking about the lightning, too. There's been a little bit of lightning north and east of Woodbine, near and just east of I-95. The lightning is a few minutes old. You see how the lightning strikes get a little more dim. The brighter the lightning strike, the newer it is. It shows us the lightning within the last 10 minutes. I'm going to switch back to velocity here, and still looks like a pretty weak and disorganized circulation, but we still have the tornado warning in effect for Camden County until 12:15. So that is 11 minutes from right now. The area of circulation is moving toward I-95 right now and approaching Woodbine. So if you are in Woodbine, you need to be in your place of safety, away from windows, in an interior closet or bathroom. A mobile home is not a good place to be, but as the potentially tornadic part of the storm is moving in, that's not the time to go outside. Interior closet or bathroom, away from windows, like I mentioned. As the area of circulation passes I-95 and then moves over toward US 17. Let's send it back over to Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish.
And here with Garrett, as we track this broadening, you mentioned, Corey, that it's a broadening circulation now, so it's weakening. The tornado warning is officially still in effect for another 10 minutes. It won't go 10 minutes, Garrett. No. It'll be discontinued before that, but it is still in effect for Woodbine. And we really want to heads up Woodbine because the circulation is headed in that direction. So I'll let you address that, and then we're going to address some of those cells offshore yet that are moving towards southeastern portions of Georgia.
Yeah, so Mike, we're continuing to track that here on our First Alert Doppler HD. Again, moving to the west pretty quickly. There's Georgia Road 110 there, Woodbine 17 there, and also County Road 144. We're seeing that area of rotation move through here at the moment. That's why we're on right now in terms of our tornado warning coverage. We are seeing that until 12:15. Still radar indicated, nothing confirmed on the ground. We haven't seen debris being lofted into the sky either. Again, a quick mover moving 50 to 60 miles per hour off to the west right now. So again, nothing really showcasing a big tight rotation, which would indicate a tornado on the ground. So that's at least some good news. Corey, let's pan out and show you those other cells here on First Alert Doppler HD where we're watching. This one right here is at one point has showed some rotation a little bit perhaps. We're watching this one as it moves off to the west and to the northwest here, northern end of Cumberland Island, over into southern portions of Jekyll Island. We'll be watching this one for you. By the way, we're getting numerous reports out of southeast Georgia now. There in Glenn County. Just got one from Jekyll Island saying a beach crossover was destroyed. So some winds of 60 plus miles per hour at times. St. Simons 1214 if this one holds together in Brunswick 1220, Dock Junction area 1223. So we're tracking a lot of these cells as the kind of the higher threat for the waterspouts or tornadoes, Mike, continues to shift ever so slowly to the north.
Right. It's a progression of this system as Nicole moves to the north and as well west and southwest of Jacksonville. Remember, Nicole now is right over in here near the Big Bend, the center of Nicole. So, in fact, it looks like it may have snuck over the water there just a little bit over the extreme eastern and northeastern Gulf of Mexico. No worries, though. That's not going to reorganize or strengthen. It may slow the process of the weakening a little bit, but we're not expecting this to take off again, even though it has re-entered the relatively warm waters, though not near as warm as, say, a month or two ago over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. So we're still seeing these bands of intense storms. They're still pretty heavy for Nassau County and northern Baker, northern Columbia County, and extreme northern Florida, and will still produce some strong winds. But the real threat for severe weather has clearly shifted to the north. So the tornado watch will soon be discontinued for Duval and Nassau County, expires anyway at 1 p.m. And this is where we have the tornado warning that's in effect for Camden County, soon to expire or be discontinued a little bit early, probably, given the movement of this cell. And then behind that are the additional bands of strong rain bands, storms that Garrett was mentioning that will continue to work their way to southeast Georgia and have the potential to produce damage, wind damage at least, and maybe an isolated water spout or tornado. And then in time, as Nicole continues that movement to the north and northwest, these persistent bands coming in off the Atlantic will shift even more to the north and to the northwest. And we'll see southeast Georgia see some improvement too. Corey just mentioning tornado warning's been allowed to expire a little bit early, 7 minutes early, so there are no tornado warnings now in effect. I wouldn't be surprised to see some more for southeast Georgia over the next hour or two. No tornado warnings are now in effect in the viewing area. Let's widen it out again just a little bit. Corey, and we'll take a look at the other cells here offshore. While they're east of Duval County where they're originating right now, remember they're moving northwest, so they're not going to make it into Duval County per se necessarily, at least the real strong bands. They'll move into Nassau and especially Camden, Glynn County, eventually parts of Brantley, Pierce, Ware, and Charlton County over southeastern portions of Georgia. When you get south of Interstate 10 and south of Jacksonville, it's mainly light bands of showers. They're not very heavy at all. You're not seeing much color here as these showers move through Palatka in the last few minutes, up into Bradford and Union County, soon to be into Lake City. So these will continue to pinwheel up into the area, but and with some gusty winds, but we're not expecting severe weather. And that's good news to this afternoon. And it won't add a whole lot of water to the situation. By that, I mean the amounts of additional rainfall just aren't going to be very significant, certainly less than a ½ inch, and in many cases less than a ¼ of an inch of additional rain this afternoon and this evening. So the focus as we go through this afternoon, the next hour or two, southeast Georgia for the waterspout and tornado potential. And then the focus is going to be the next high tide cycle. The intracoastal and the beaches is between roughly 8:30 and 9:30 tonight, give or take. And then the St. Johns River, it's going to be a little bit either way of about 11 p.m. to midnight. And that's going to be a really critical high tide cycle because with Nicole out to the west here, the circulation is going to cause that south wind to blow a lot of water right up the St. Johns River into or near downtown Jacksonville. And that could be some significant flooding the way it would appear through this evening downtown. We've just passed the high tide downtown, and we're going to see another high tide cycle this evening a little bit before midnight, as Nicole makes that move through the northeastern Gulf and then will turn more northward through the Panhandle on up into Georgia. Once that happens, it really cuts off the supply of tropical air. We still see a few scattered showers through tomorrow, but the air is much drier. We'll break out into some sunshine at times for Veterans Day, and then even nicer weather as we head into the weekend as we start to lose any influence from Nicole as it moves on off to the north. And we'll see even some cooler air finally move in by about Sunday. So again, just to summarize, tornado warning has expired for this tornado warning has expired for Camden County. There are no tornado warnings any longer in effect. We are tracking these bands still coming off the ocean that could produce severe weather. And I understand we have a live report right now in St. Augustine on some of the conditions there where water was so high a little earlier this morning during the high tide cycle.
Mike, you know, you say it all the time. If there's floodwaters, stay out of them, whether you're in a car or if you're just on foot, especially if you're on foot. Well, we brought you this video earlier on showing a young man running out to meet St. Augustine police officers carrying what we now know was an EMG to try to revive a man who appears to have been electrocuted in these floodwaters. We talked with that young man, Mateo, and he told us exactly what he saw and how this all went down. I'll let him tell you the story. Well, we saw you run down and meet up with the police here. You say it sounded like a power line went down and electrocuted a man.
Yeah, so when I was walking down there with my brother, a man was doing CPR on an unconscious person. He was foaming from the mouth and he signaled us down. Once he signaled me down and I got close enough, I saw what was happening and ran back here to get an officer who thankfully had an AED pack on him. And I directed him towards where the body was. Once he got there, they dragged the man to a safe spot. The officer thankfully did get the equipment on him, and they, from what I heard, he had a good heartbeat. So he was alive when they put him on the back of a dump truck and took him out of here.
And you were saying it looked like either a power pole or a light pole had fallen?
Yeah, so it was some sort of pole that was laying towards the side. It didn't completely go over, but you could see wires coming out of the ground.
So presumably he was walking around in the water and there was a, live charge there or something that...
Most likely. He wasn't wearing any sort of boots or anything like that. He was just like me with flip-flops. So that's most likely what happened.
Goes to show just, We see a lot of people kind of walking around, enjoying the day, walking their dog through this floodwater. I mean, I think after seeing that, you'd say that's not a good idea.
Oh, absolutely not. You know, me and my brother, after seeing that, we're actually about to head out now. You know, that really put us into perspective how dangerous it really is.
Well, you know, you did yeoman's work. You may have saved a man's life.
You know, I really didn't do much. I just got the cop. I got to give thanks to the guy who was doing CPR on that man's life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mateo.
Yes, sir.
Good work.
Thank you.
Again, big thank you to Mateo. That was heroism at its finest, as well as that gentleman, we don't know his name, who started doing chest compressions on that man, obviously hoping he's okay. But let this be a reminder. This is not a joke. This is not fun. This is not a time to bring your dog out. If you know somebody who's out here right now, if you're out here right now and you're listening to this, get indoors. Don't walk in floodwater, because accidents like this can happen. The only way you're going to be able to ensure that it doesn't is if you stay in a safe location. For local coverage you can count on live in St. Augustine, I'm Jake Stofan, Action News Jax.
Boy, Mateo did the right thing, didn't he? It sent shivers up your spine when we heard that interview there of the boy doing that to the man and flagging down the police officer. Fortunately, there was a defibrillator there, able to get that man's heart still going. Unbelievable. Well, we're waiting for a news conference from Mayor Lenny Curry. He's going to be holding it here any second now, and we continue to have coverage for you on what's going on all across our area, including some beach damage near A1A. You can see right here, water reaching all the way to the steps down the beach here. Look at this. This is in Flagler County. The Flagler County Emergency Management says that there is obviously flooding in that area. It washed away that entire portion there. We understand that Mayor Lenny Curry is starting his news conference right now. Let's listen in.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this briefing on Tropical Storm Nicole. Joining me today are emergency management officials and key stakeholders from departments throughout Duval County. Duval County remains under a state of emergency at this time. We're also under a tropical storm warning, storm surge warning, flood watch, and a tornado watch. Nicole made landfall south of Duval County in the early morning hours as a Category 1 hurricane. She has since weakened to a tropical storm but continues to impact our area. If you are watching Nicole's track, it is well to the west of Jacksonville and the beaches. However, our biggest threat remains storm surge and tidal flooding along our beaches and the St. Johns River, as well as the potential for tornadoes throughout the area. High tide tonight and tomorrow morning will present the biggest risk for flooding at the beaches and along the St. Johns River. If you live in Zone A or B, please stay aware and be prepared. We currently have public works crews in the flood-prone areas like McCoy's Creek, Hogan's Creek, and San Marco, where there's some localized flooding. There's also flooding along Ken Knight Drive, and like we did during Hurricane Ian, we have partnered with the Jacksonville Transportation Authority to provide a direct shuttle to the Legends Center shelter for any of those residents in need. We will continue to closely watch these areas through tonight's high tides. For the beaches, that's around 9 p.m., and inland high tide is 11 p.m. 2 shelters opened at 8 a.m. today, the Legends Center and Landmark Middle School. Both are available for those with special needs, the special medical needs, the general population, and both are pet-friendly. We still do not expect evacuations, but we want to make sure shelters are available for those who may be in need. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Please stay out of the water and off of the beaches. The surf is breaching the dunes and there's no beach to stand on. Once again this morning I watched local news and saw people were in the ocean. These are terrible conditions. You're risking the lives of yourself and those that may have to come rescue you. So stay out of the water. I'd also like to ask all citizens to stay off of the roads until the storm passes. There are down power lines in areas as well as trees. There have been multiple accidents today, several that required extrications, one that shut down the Dames Point in both directions, and with these conditions, there's potential for more. Do not go out unless you have until the storm passes and these tidal flooding effects have receded. In conclusion, remember that if you have questions or need to report a non-emergency incident in the city, call 630-CITY. If you have an emergency, call 911. Lines are open with extra operators on 630-CITY and will be available to handle potential heavy call volume. With that, I invite Chief Ellis Burns to talk about Jacksonville Sheriff's Office efforts, followed by Jay Stowe from JEA.
Thank you, Mayor Curry. Good afternoon. I'm Ellis Burns, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. So I couldn't say any better than Mayor Curry did. Please stay off the roads. We're working about 20 crashes as of 11:30. As the mayor says, some requiring extrications. Most of these are most likely going to be weather related. So I'm asking people to please stay off the roads. It's inclement weather. We're hoping this is going to pass the next few hours. We'll continue to watch the storm track and work with the National Weather Service on that, but there's no sense in being on the roads if you don't have to be, so please don't. We're still fully staffed, extra staff actually right now, and we're deploying strike teams to try to shut down intersections where there's standing water at that's impassable. Outside of that, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. JEA crews have been out all night restoring power. The storm, as it still passes through, there will continue to be outages, and the fluctuation of the numbers of outages will be moving around a little bit. A few minutes ago, we were down to about 6,500 outages right now. It has been as high as 25,000. All the crews are out responding. There's some areas where it is difficult to get to because of trees and flooding, but we will continue to work around the clock till we can get those back on. Our water system is holding up well, no overflows and no broken pipes, so we should be good there. And we have partnership with the city and all the other agencies to keep things moving as quickly as we can. Thank you.
That will take questions.
Already with flooding, especially in the South Bank, the North Bank, the San Marco area, we're seeing worse water levels than we did during Ian. During Ian, you issued voluntary evacuations. Is there any possibility that a voluntary evacuation might come out?
I mean, I think that people ought to use common sense right now. Again, if you know you're in these areas, the zones I mentioned, A and B, if you've seen flooding in previous storms, you ought to consider moving if you can. I think that would be common sense and wise.
When it comes to municipal services, everything was supposed to resume tomorrow. Is that still the plan?
That is the yes. And so makeup day for today will be Saturday. Is that right, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions on the tidal flooding. What are you expecting tomorrow? I mean, is it going to be worse than it is right now? What do you think is going to be happening?
Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, we don't know. I think it's really important for people as this storm passes, and sun may even come out this afternoon. I don't know. If it does, don't assume the flood risk is over. It could last throughout the evening and into tomorrow.
What are you've mentioned some of the areas, the traditional areas, but have you had any property damage, anything that has been reported yet from flooding?
Steve, have you heard any?
Steve Long, Public Works, thank you. Have not had any reports come into our office about property damage. We do know that, all of our low-lying areas are seeing impacts from the storm. And basically until the tide turns and goes out, we won't be able to assess how the drainage system is doing. But the impacts to private properties, we haven't had any reports on those.
Just a final question. You mentioned the shelters open. Has anybody taken you up on that yet, or do you know?
Yeah, there are people in shelters. I don't know the number counts off the top of my head, but there are some people utilizing the services. Todd, you have the numbers.
Yeah. So Todd Smith, yes, sir. So Landmark Middle has 13 residents here, and Legends has 13 for a total of 26, and this is only 1% of our total population of the shelter.
If tonight is going to be worse than we've already seen from a high tide perspective, what has the city done? What is the city going to do for some of the projects that are in the works in those areas that could be flooded, especially downtown with the development that's happening there?
Steve, existing projects that are...
Yes, ma'am. For existing projects that are ongoing, for instance, on LaSalle Street, there's a new pump station that is under design and is going to be under construction in the next year. So that'll be in place. That will help with some of the issues we're seeing because it'll cut off some of the direct connections to the river. If the river rises above the bulkhead, that kind of negates that work. But for everything up to the bulkhead elevations, that'll help cure it. We're doing a lot of work right now along the McCory's Creek basin, which is seeing impacts today, but they're lesser impacts than we've seen in previous storms. So it shows that work that is going, even though it's multiple phases, it shows that early phase is helping the drainage systems. And so work like that will continue to help and improve things as we move into the future.
Can you talk about Hogan's Creek? That's where we are seeing
Hogan's Creek, yeah.
Hogan's Creek, again, that's one of our trouble areas, and that's a project that is planned into the future. That is, designed. It's not designed. When it is designed, we're going to look to make the same kind of improvements that we're seeing in McCory's Creek. However, that's in several years into the future. But when that starts, we'll be looking to make those same type of drainage improvements.
And I know this is far early days, but when it comes to the Riverwalk right there under the Main Street Bridge, it never really recovered after Ian, was still soggy, now completely submerged. Is there a plan to maybe redo that?
There's a plan to make a repair, basically from where the water, that area is submerged all the time, and the walls are dry, and it keeps the lower area dry during normal operations. During Ian, there was a water seal was broken, and we actually had a plan to start that repair in the coming days, if not next week. Once this storm passes, we'll get that area dried out again. We'll get our contractor back on board to start that repair so that we can make it completely dry again.
Mayor, this is probably your last news conference at the EOC.
I hope so. I hope so. But, I mean, look, there's still, 7 months left, 8 months left, and people here have a job to do. So, hopefully another crisis won't present itself while I'm in office, but if it does, we'll be ready for it, and we'll stand ready to pass on all of our knowledge to the next administration.
All right, we interrupt the press conference this afternoon for a tornado warning that's just now been issued. And this is parts of Camden and Glynn County. That's moving to the west and to the northwest. Again, these are moving very, very fast. This has just come off the ocean, or is coming off the ocean, with a potential waterspout and possible tornado. This is the area that's affected from the north edge is St. Simon's Island. It does include Jekyll Island. All these little icons are storm reports, by the way, have nothing to do with the tornado warning that's currently in effect. Corey just took those off. And then moving westbound, it crosses I-95 and into the western portions of Glynn County here. So let's, this does include Brunswick. This tornado warning does include Brunswick. If we widen it out a little bit, Corey, let's put the winds on here and see if we can find the circulation that's there it is. Right on the southern and southeastern edge. Boy, that looks like a water spout, very possibly. So there's Jekyll Island. This sits just south of Jekyll Island. Let's put the distance marker on here, and then we'll show you where this storm is exactly headed. So south of Jekyll Island is the circulation, probably by a little more than a few miles. There it is, 3 miles from the coast. And then south of Jekyll Island, it's about 5 miles or so, give or take. Maybe not even quite that much, actually, to the circulation. And there it is, 5 miles. So now we're going to track that west-northwest bound, moving at some 60 miles per hour. So as far away as it is from I-95 now, it won't take long to get there. And it would appear that the most intense part of the circulation is a little south of Jekyll Island. But having said that, you see that little bright color extending to the north? That's strong winds. And there might be another circulation right behind that, by the way. We'll keep an eye on that. But this is first one that's triggered the tornado warning. We'll head west-northwest toward I-95. Summerways Water Park, closed this time of year, of course, but it's in that area right now. Dover Bluff at 12:31, Hickory Bluff at about 12:36, and Ella Park Church neighborhood at about 12:37. That puts it in roughly 7 to 9 minutes at I-95. So again, if anybody's traveling north on Interstate 95 anytime soon, the best advice is to let these cells move through southeast Georgia before continuing your trip. That's 12 miles from I-95 right now to the circulation. So as fast as these are moving, it's just a matter of minutes before it manages to get to Interstate 95. And that's what has triggered, most likely, that's the trigger for this tornado warning, is that circulation that we're tracking on 5-sweep first alert Doppler ratio that we could see when we put the velocities on there. This is the rain now. There's Piney Bluff Road comes into view. Dover Bluff Road. There's a lot of campgrounds in this area. Again, it's a highly rural area until you get to about Interstate 95. Horse Stamp Church Road is also on the map there. There's again Piney Bluff Road, and the circulation just offshore a little bit, about right in here. So there's Jekyll Island at the top of the screen, and it's just a little south of Jekyll Island, moving ashore right now with a possible waterspout that, if it holds together, then overland would be officially called a tornado. Transitions to a tornado then. as it speeds west-northwest through parts of far northern Camden and Glynn County. It will reach I-95 in less than 10 minutes. The areas south of there, we continue to see far less of a severe weather threat. There's Brunswick at the top of the screen. They're at the edge of the tornado warning. The southeast Georgia is where these cells continue to move across. We call it training because they move over the same areas while only gradually lifting to the north. So they'll move over the same areas for quite a long period of time here, relatively long period of time. Fernandina Beach in a band of heavy rain right now as well. But most of Jacksonville, it's just a few scattered brief showers, even a peek at the sun at times. So our tornado warning is in effect for Glynn County. Let's go ahead and go back in there and focus. We've had a number of reports of high water. We've had some downed trees. We've had a few car accidents around the area, as the mayor was just talking about. In fact, right now, if we can bring up the traffic cam just real quickly before I get back to the tornado warning, I see they're trying to clean up the semi on the Dames Point Bridge right now. Looks like they have a wrecker there. Some other equipment, you can see the emergency vehicles. Yeah, they've got some kind of crane set up here ready to try to push that semi right, get it upright. Of course, the cab's still on its side. There's a big wrecker there, another wrecker here. It takes a lot to move this semi. And of course, they are also waiting to make sure that the conditions are safe to do this. This accident happened at least 2 hours ago, if I remember correctly, and the semi's been sitting there. We don't have confirmation of injuries or whatnot, but it just isn't something that's going to be done quickly given the wind speeds. And obviously, that's an elevated bridge. It's one of the tallest points in Duval County. And so the wind is howling here when you get up, especially up above the ground. And the water doesn't help either. There's not as much friction to stop that wind. So this will continue to be a process, in other words, for a while before the Dames Point Bridge can be completely reopened. So back to the tornado warning that is currently in effect. Is it all the way till 1 o'clock? Is that correct? That seems awfully long for a tornado warning of this speed.
Till 1 o'clock p.m.
Huh. I'll be darned. Well, that'll be canceled early. As it moves to the west-northwest, crossing into Interstate 95, there it is just south of Brunswick. Brunswick is technically in the tornado warning, but the most intense part of that circulation is just crossing the intracoastal into southern portions of Glynn County, south and southwest of Brunswick, moving at about 60 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and time it again, Corey, now that we have some updated data. There's the circulation. There's no question there's a circulation there. We've had several of these today. Few have actually truly produced a tornado on the ground as far as we can confirm or as far as we know right now. But this green area, that's the circulation. Corey's got it tracking west-northwest to Interstate 95 at 60 miles per hour. It won't take long to get there at all. Mount Sinai Church neighborhood at 12:30, as well as Piney Bluff, Ella Park Church neighborhood at 12:35, and Red Bluff at about 12:40. So that's going to put it to the I-95 corridor here in about 4 or 5 minutes. It'll be to the west edge of the warning by at least 12:40. So there's no way that this is, I wouldn't think, is going to still be in effect at 1 o'clock. Let's widen the view, see if we have any other circulations coming in off the water, Corey. And not anything we can really put a finger on at the moment, but any of these green spots are spots that we'll watch for a possible water spout. There's a little bit of lightning there. And as these move ashore, that's when we can get a tornado. And that's why the tornado warning has been triggered for northern portions, far northern portions of Camden County, but especially Glynn County, near and south of Brunswick, headed for Interstate 95. Garrett?
Yeah, so we're tracking that for you here in the Action News Jax First Alert Weather Center here. We're seeing multiple areas there out in the Atlantic waters as well. Wanted to focus also here at Fernandina Beach. Corey, let's dive down into Nassau County here. This one right here, let's check the velocity on this little area moving into Fernandina Beach. Perhaps we get looks like, okay, there is a little bit of weak circulation there. The darker colors with the brighter colors of green. So this is not tornado warned right now, but we are tracking this cell. So Amelia Island heads up for this one. At the very least, we'll have for you some gusty winds. So we're watching that on our First Alert Doppler HD. And then back to the north. So again, any of these little showers well offshore could turn and rotate briefly. And now this is the one we're tracking, and Mike's been telling you about here in Camden and Glynn County. Right now, the heavy rain already to I-95 in Glynn County, heading down into Camden County. As we look here on First Alert Doppler HD, this is losing some of that classic look here that we've seen as it was coming ashore here and just mere moments ago and minutes ago, and then it ran over just to the south of Jekyll Island Likely, it could have been a waterspout there before it made its way inland, and then now the structure of it, which has been typical for these cells coming in off the Atlantic, has kind of gotten a little bit fuzzy here in terms of the dynamics of what's going on here in the atmosphere. So let's check the velocity here, the wind data, and see what's going on. And there is some broad rotation, but all in all, it's not terribly significant. It looked a lot better offshore, Mike. I believe you would agree there. It looked a lot better coming in off the Atlantic, and now we're beginning to see it broaden out a little bit. So perhaps, Mike, we go back and check that cell down in Nassau County coming in off the Atlantic. You can see the winds beginning to pick up here, and this is trying to spin a little bit, and Corey's putting it back in time and putting it in motion and watching it get ready to arrive there in Nassau County. So Amelia Island, Fernandina Beach, we're tracking this one too, Mike.
Yeah, Gary, you make a good point. As these come off the water, they have a tendency to have a pretty tight circulation. They may be producing a water spout or really strong winds. And then as they hit the land, friction takes a toll a little bit on the wind, and it usually disrupts that circulation pretty quickly. Corey is tracking this storm now, this possible circulation toward Fernandina Beach and Fletcher Road and nearby areas. Seaside Park at 12:36 in just 2 minutes. Fernandina Beach itself, just a minute later, at 12:37. St. Joseph's Academy neighborhood at about 12:38. That's that bright color we'll try. Even if there's not a tornado or a water spout in association with this cell, you could get 50, 60 plus mile per hour winds as it moves in and crosses A1A and Fletcher Avenue and then eventually Chester Road, Morrison Drive. There you can see the very heavy rain. Our First Alert Skycam network there might be pretty interesting to see right now. It should be pouring or will be very soon at that particular location. That's the Hampton Inn in Fernandina Beach, and there it is, and there sure is. We're raining hard, so that verifies what radar is showing us. A lot of rain. Wind is up, but it's not extreme at this point, although the strongest winds probably with this cell haven't quite reached Fernandina Beach. This is from the Hampton Inn. This is looking toward the north and the northeast, and maybe even a little more east. Yeah, that Trevor confirms a little bit more to the east. And you can see it is pouring here, some wind, and then we'll watch this cell as it moves in for an attempt at least at rotation. And we see numerous other cells offshore that will feed into southeastern Georgia over the next hour or two. This will be our primary focus for severe weather. Also moving into Waycross, by the way, in Blackshear in Georgia, very heavy rain. Wind with this cell. It should be pouring any minute in Waycross and Blackshear along with the wind. And then it's on into Dixie Union and nearby spots, Nahunta as well in Bracken County. Here you can, Brantley County. Here you can see that movement to the west here of the cell. It's approaching Waycross and nearby areas. Deanwood at 12:36, Pine Valley at 12:40, Waresboro at 12:41, there's Dixie Union at 12:44, and Fairfax at about 12:47. Meanwhile, to the east, we have the tornado warning that is in effect. Corey, do we have any updates on this as it continues to move toward the west edge of that tornado warning in I-95?
Nothing right now, Mike. The National Weather Service has highlighted an area for us to watch. It's a little discussion that they released to the public and those of us in the First Alert Weather Center. And I'm waiting for an update on that, or at least for that to make itself available into the system. And it looks like the areas that the Storm Prediction Center are watching are primarily up into southeast Georgia. So I got to move this to kind of get out of the way here. Here's Jacksonville, there's St. Augustine, there's Lake City, there's Northeast Florida. The red shaded area here is at least the area that we will be watching over the next couple of hours, Mike.
And Corey, we were talking and tracking that cell near Fernandina Beach, and sure enough, the National Weather Service has just pulled the trigger now on a new tornado warning for parts of Nassau County. That has been just issued. There it is. In the last couple of minutes, it does include St. Mary's and it does include Fernandina Beach. That was our concern. Coming ashore here, this little hook right near east and immediate southeast of Fernandina Beach. Oh, it's a tornado warning now in effect also until 1 o'clock this afternoon. That cell is moving right through Fernandina Beach and will head west-northwest at some 50 to 60 miles per hour. Jasmine Street, we're on street level mapping now. Jasmine Street under that tornado warning. Fernandina Beach, of course. Let's zoom in even tighter here. There's the circulation right into Fernandina Beach right as we speak. Go down even a little tighter. There's North Fletcher Avenue. And there we go. There's boy, it's hard to read these upside down, basically. Jean Lafitte Boulevard, sorry, Fernandina Beach, Park Avenue, and then all these highways that are popping in, Clinch Drive, First Avenue, Pirates Bay Drive. If you hear these, Fernandina Court, Amelia Island Parkway, you're under the tornado warning that is currently in effect right now and moving to the west-northwest at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. So these are really moving fast, and this circulation is fairly strong, and then it extends westward all the way to Highway 17 and Interstate 95 in Nassau and Camden County. That would include Kingsland, St. Mary's. Here's that movement, tracking just the circulation. Corey's put it into Fernandina Beach right now, as we've been mentioning, Chester at 12:43, and into Crandall at about 12:48. Again, it's a tornado warning now in effect for northern and northeastern portions of Nassau County, far southern Camden County in Georgia, extends as far west as Interstate 95. Again, anybody traveling on I-95 needs to stay up to date on this situation north out of Jacksonville into Nassau County. The rest stop about right in here, and that's included in the tornado warning. And then we also have the tornado warning that is in effect, of course, to the north over extreme northern Camden and into Glynn County for a cell that's moved west of Brunswick. And that circulation continues to weaken and broaden as it approaches and crosses Interstate 95. There's a new update from the National Weather Service on that tornado warning, Corey. My guess is they're just going to continue the warning for the time being until it moves out of that area.
Yeah, tornado warning continues until 1 p.m. Mike, this is the storm, like Mike mentioned, in Camden and Glynn County. Until 1 o'clock, the tornado warning continues. A thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 8 miles east of Waverly, or 9 miles southwest of Brunswick, moving west at 60 miles per hour. They also updated the speed on these as well. So these are moving very quickly, almost the speed that you would be driving down the highway. That's how fast these are moving. Yeah. Like Mike mentioned, the rotation is a little bit broad with this cell as it approaches I-95 and eventually US 17. We're also live on 104.5 WOKV. Rich Jones letting us know if you are in the car, you're on I-95 headed up into southeast Georgia, just take a break. We also have a tornado warning for Nassau County, including Fernandina as well, Mike.
Yeah, Corey, and that storm continues to work its way inland now, and we are concerned with the Fernandina Beach area, west-northwest over northern Nassau County, southern portions of Camden County. As Corey just mentioned, 104.5 WOK viewers on I-95, take a break. Let this storm move by your area over the next 10 minutes. It is pouring right now in Fernandina Beach. For more on our sky cams and this tornado warning, we go to Garrett.
Yeah, so we're tracking this here on our Action News Jax First Alert Skycam network as well. Look at this right here from the Hampton Inn. This is looking straight into where that rotation is here. I just saw literally a flock of seagulls take off as the wind picked up here on the from the Hampton Inn, looking off to the north there. Front Street right here, still seeing some flooding from the tidal flooding and the surge here from this, but we are still tracking that area of rotation. Let's go over here and show you here right now. This is what we've been tracking here on First Alert Doppler HD right now at Fernandina Beach, and we're seeing the area, the marina there right now on First Alert Doppler HD. We'll put the information back on and track that rotation. This is the one we were giving you the first alert on mere moments ago before it was warned for a tornado. So we tracked this coming in off the Atlantic with those winds beginning to pick up, and now this is the area that may even be, if there is rotation, right over the water now. This is where you would leave from Fernandina Beach to go out into the water, into the Atlantic. So that's where we're talking about the rotation that could be in St. Mary's Elementary School if it heads that way by 12:46. That area, Crandall by 12:49, and before that, Chester by 12:43. So this is the area we are watching, not at the immediate coastline now at Fernandina Beach, not at Fort Clinch at the moment. Looks like the circulation has moved off just to the west of that area. Like if you were standing at Fort Clinch, you could see it probably if it wasn't so windy and rain-wrapped likely, off to the west of you. So that's the area we're watching, Mike, here. And again, here on our First Alert Skycam network cameras, we are seeing the very wet and windy conditions there right now live.
Yeah, and just a couple of minutes ago, Garrett, that camera, it was a blinding rain. So these are moving, these cells are moving fast. They don't last very long. It means you need to take action quickly when a tornado warning like this is issued. It does appear, I think we'd all be in agreement, that this is now, the circulation appears to be mainly west of Fernandina Beach, at least downtown Fernandina Beach, and working its way west-northwestbound. Looks like it would stay just a little south of St. Mary's, crossing the northern portions of Nassau County. There's Osborne Street has popped in there with some very heavy rain now, blinding rain. St. Mary's getting into the extreme rainfall, maybe winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour. Spinnaker Drive popped in, stays a little south of Kings Bay base. We're now tracking the front edge of this cell that's possibly producing a tornado. Into Scottsville at 1242, Crandall at 1243, Kingsland at 1247, and Gross at about 1248. We drop a little south from there, and we'll track the circulation next. That's the actual tornado. And you can see there is a little indentation there where it turns in a little bit. That's where there might be some of the circulation. We've now put the winds on here. This is velocity. So what we were just showing you before was how heavy it's raining. This is now the velocity. This shows us the wind. First Alert Doppler HD allows us to see inside that storm, quite literally. What is the wind doing? What's the direction? And this is the movement of that circulation, which has broadened out quite a bit since the tornado warning was issued. It's weakened some. Headed into Chester, that circulation at 1245. St. Mary's Historic District, beautiful area. You'll be in this, very near this circulation at about 1246. And then there's Crandall again popping up 1249. That's the most dangerous portion of this cell that may contain the strongest winds as it moves really fast to the west-northwest toward Interstate 95. So we've got this cell that may be producing a tornado. And then to the north in Glenn County, we have another cell that's essentially exited the tornado warning, so I would expect that tornado warning to be canceled any minute. It was in effect till 1 p.m. There's no reason for that to be in effect anymore, I wouldn't think. It has passed I-95, the circulation, and the area is what we call, it's become linear. It's lined out. Not as conducive to producing a tornado. An update also from the National Hurricane Center on Nicole has just come in. You can get these on your First Alert Weather app, these updates. I'll get them on my watch too, but it's an easy way to get your First Alert Weather app downloaded. Get it for free now. And it gives you all this great information right at the tip of your fingers. But the update is that Nicole is very near the Big Bend and continues to gradually weaken. There it is. Corey's widening out. First Alert Doppler HD. There kind of appear to be a couple of centers. It's becoming less organized, but very near the Big Bend, moving northwest, turning more northward with time. And it's because of Nicole that we're getting this unseasonable outbreak of tropical weather, including storm surge, flooding, and now tornadoes and waterspouts. And the drier air is starting to wrap in around that, so that's going to help us out in northeast Florida this afternoon from a tornado standpoint and severe weather standpoint. It'll still be windy, but the tornado threat is shifting north toward the Florida-Georgia border, where we have the tornado warning now, and then into southeastern portions of Georgia. Garrett?
Yeah, we got an update here for the tornado watch from the Storm Prediction Center and here locally. They've actually expanded it to the north of us until 7 o'clock, but also including now our inland Georgia counties with the actual tornado watch. So you may be getting also that alert on your Action News Jack's First Alert weather app. So we do have the tornado watch expansion to the north and a little bit to the west, just coming into us here until this evening. I suspect some of that will be shaved off as we go through the evening from our local office here at the National Weather Service. But again, an expansion to the north. If you're thinking about traveling on I-95, there's that threat for at least a waterspout or a tornado again coming in even up into the Savannah area, Mike.
Yeah, and Garrett, the southern part of that, the southern edge, Nassau, Duval County, be in effect until 1 p.m. and then 7 p.m. for southeastern Georgia. Remember the differences between a watch and a warning. A watch means conditions are favorable. A warning means you need to take action. And that's why we're on the air nonstop at the moment, is because we have 2 tornado warnings that are active, one that will be expiring soon, canceled early more than likely in Glenn County, and then that's followed up by another tornado warning that's over the northern portions of Nassau County that extends as far east as Fernandina Beach, though the tornadic portion of that storm does appear to be now a little west of Fernandina Beach. But look at all these cells lined up, and occasionally we get a little lightning mixed in there. But these are extending well offshore, and each one has the potential to produce a waterspout and or tornado when it moves ashore. So this is going to be a busy hour or two for southeast Georgia. Garrett mentioning that the watch was in effect until 7 p.m. And I believe he's absolutely correct in that will be shaved off from south to north earlier than that. But for right now, southeast Georgia in particular, the potential for tornadoes, and that extends to Folkestone, Waycross, Waynesville, Nahunta, Blackshear, and nearby areas too. We're focusing, though, on the 2 tornado warnings that we have at the moment. Sounds like we just got an update. Garrett, is that anything of any consequence?
Nassau and Camden. Okay. Still an update, still in effect until 1 p.m.
1 p.m., okay. All right, so that's an update, and you can see the red flashing there. That just means we did indeed receive that update now on our mapping, too, and that tornado warning is in effect now a little north and west of Fernandina Beach. Possible tornado indicated near the Florida-Georgia border, moving northwestbound toward I-95. Looks like this would go just a tad north of that rest stop on the the Florida side. And then we'll be crossing I-95. It's going to get close to Kingsland if it holds together the rotation. The cell certainly will with the heavy rain and the strong winds. Let's track that circulation then, Corey, which is just a little south of St. Mary's. There it is. It's really broad now. It does appear to have a little more northwest motion to it, I would say, in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. So Corey's going to track that through and very near St. Mary's Road, and then to Interstate 95. There's Charleston Way. Pops in too. This will head west-northwest, and timing it out for you, it's into the club at the Osprey Cove. That's at about 12:52 into the neighborhood there and crossing St. Mary's Road. So it's very near St. Mary's right now, and then will work its way toward the interstate within just the next few minutes. They're moving so fast that it just doesn't take very long. So this is one tornado warning that we have, and there does appear to be a little bit more of a couplet, if you will. That just means the colors close together there in the last few minutes, showing up on the velocity imagery. So we zoom in, you've got Dilworth Street, Reddy Street, Seagrove Street under a tornado warning right now, Shadowlawn Drive. This is in Camden County in Georgia. There's downtown St. Mary's, and then it'll work its way west-northwest bound toward Highway 40, St. Mary's Road, and then we're going to get to Interstate 95 when you get a little bit more to the west, and this circulation will be there in no time at all. There's just coming into your picture on the left-hand side, Interstate 95. And that's the west edge of the tornado warning. Let's put the velocities back on there, Corey, because it was looking a little more interesting again. Very near St. Mary's when we had the velocities on there just a minute ago. And we zoom in, there it is. And there you can see, yeah, that's a little more interesting, isn't it, Corey? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right over Reddy Street. By this point, maybe it's a little to the west there because this is moving so fast. But this is what I mentioned earlier. We're looking for the red and the green to get close together and get really bright. And we're starting to see some signs. Maybe this is trying to intensify a little bit, Mike.
It is. And Garrett's also found another circulation that he's going to talk about in a minute. But this is, as you mentioned, about over Reddy Street, just slightly north of the Florida Georgia border, and it'll work quickly west-northwest toward I-95, and there's I-95 on the left-hand side of the screen, heads up here near the Florida-Georgia border all the way to Interstate 95. We are simulcasting 104.5 WOKV, so if you're on Interstate 95 and you hear us, best advice is just give it a break. Just stop traveling for a while, maybe take one of those exits, the rest stop, whatever the case might be. Let this storm get by Interstate 95, and then you can continue on your way. Very near Osborne Street's past just about on Osborne Street on that movement west-northwest. There's another update. Circulation is definitely there, and maybe looks like it's trying to tighten up a little bit more again. So heads up St. Mary's here. This may be a developing tornado kind of reorganizing. Sometimes that happens. They go through cycles and stages. But heads up St. Mary's. This is looking more and more like a dangerous storm. Remember, in a tornado warning, to stay in the lowest part of the building you are in. Stay away from windows. Interior hallway or bathroom usually offers better protection because of the extra pipes from the plumbing that you have in a bathroom, and then it's headed toward Highway 40 here, St. Mary's Road, and then eventually Interstate 95. St. Mary's, be prepared at least for high winds and a possible tornado. Garrett has his eye on another circulation that's well offshore, but it's moving fast, and it'll be near the coast in no time at all, Garrett.
Yeah, just like we gave you the first alert on that one coming into Nassau County. Now we're tracking another one well offshore here. Now well offshore, but again, they're going at 60 miles per hour or so. So this one, if it keeps its same trajectory, sometimes with the circulation around the broad area of Nicole, it may go a little bit more west versus northwest, but wanted to give you the first alert, the Cabin Bluff area, Grayfield area here. This is one we're also tracking that's showing signs of a waterspout offshore, well offshore, but again, it is moving around 60 miles per hour. We'll also watch a shower, heavy shower right there. This is the wind I'm showing you, the storm winds versus the radar that shows the rainfall that you're used to seeing, but we're watching two cells coming in off the Atlantic here right now on First Alert Doppler HD, Mike.
And we did and should mention that the northern cell in Glynn County, that cell, as we expected, that tornado warning has been canceled. So we only have one active tornado warning. That's along the Nassau Camden County line, the Florida-Georgia border, and that's this circulation that is very near St. Mary's now, headed quickly to the west-northwest. That's rain on the left, and this is the velocities on the right-hand side of your screen, and this is that what we're watching, those colors where they come together here, now a little bit west and northwest of St. Mary's, so it looks like that circulation leaving St. Mary's, the most dangerous part of that storm, and will continue west-northwest. Is that a debris ball?
Okay, so the products are sometimes a little
messy,
a little messy,
Yeah.
and also the timing isn't exactly right as well. So I think, Mike, what we need to be looking at is right here.
Right. Well, it could be left behind is my concern, although it looks like it is stuck to some other colors there, which tells me it's probably not a debris ball, right, Corey? Not to mention that it's also not in the correct area.
That's correct. Yeah. And also based on where we're seeing the velocity, which is north and west of downtown St. Mary's proper, right here.
Right.
This would be where a tornado forms right here. So this is this State Road 40? Right here, I believe this is State Road 40.
I believe it is. Yeah.
We have the green and the red. So the green is toward. Is this Moody? Is this Moody or Jax?
That's Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. The green is toward, and the red is away. So you have those kind of coming together right here, and this would be where a tornado potentially developed if we saw it form. We don't have them touching right now, which is at least helpful. This could be a rotating wall cloud or mesocyclone, kind of the fancy word for that. Sometimes the clouds can kind of look like saucers or spaceships when they start to come down at least a little bit closer to the ground. The radar, what you normally see with the rain and thunderstorms, has pushed the storm now well to the west of downtown St. Mary's, very near I-95. We're waiting for the velocity data, the correlation coefficient, the debris that we're tracking to kind of catch up with everything else. So that's what we're looking at right now. I don't think that is debris. We're starting to get some of the velocity data that looks bad now with it too. So that tells me I think that's just bad data.
Yep, I completely agree.
Where we would potentially see a tornado form is right here, which is near St. Mary's Road. I need to double check that, and State Road 40.
Trevor and Garrett had marked the spot here too just a minute ago, and so that debris does not, what could be debris, does not match up with the circulation, which we've been talking about for the last 5 or 10 minutes. The gist of this is, the nuts and bolts of it is that this, if there's a circulation, there is a circulation. If there's a tornado, it's west and northwest of St. Mary's now. Corey is.
Yeah, here's the airport. We can kind of make that out using the satellite imagery. These are the roads: Georgia Road 40, St. Mary's Road, I-95. I-95 near either of those roads. So State Road 40, East Kings Avenue. We're talking about Kingsland now, a little bit down the road. Let me check with the National Weather Service. They have not given us any update on that. Mike, we haven't mentioned yet the tornado warning farther to the north for Glenn County has expired. Our primary focus now is here for southern Camden County, Kingsland, as the storm tracks up to the north and northwest.
And a little west and northwest of St. Mary's now. So it appears St. Mary's is out of danger with this one particular cell. There's more behind it. But moving west-northwestbound, and indeed very quickly here approaching I-95 and the Kingsland area, a possible tornado. And that's where the tornado warning is in effect right now. Offshore, we have another impressive cell northeast of Fernandina Beach. This one is going to race to the west and to the northwest. So heads up for, again, Camden and Glenn County, because this one may trigger a tornado warning. This is velocity on the other side, and where you see that bright green color, that's what we'll be watching carefully. We're seeing 48 mile per hour winds approximately. That's up in the atmosphere a little bit, not necessarily at the surface, but something to keep an eye on. No official tornado warning has been issued for that particular cell yet, but that's one to watch, and that would be the area in Glenn, southern Glenn, northern portions of Camden County. The tornado warning, there's lightning strikes, so with that cell that is tornado warned right now, so they're trying to intensify, and we're getting some pretty impressive indications on radar from time to time of those circulations. And right now it sounds like the tornado warning has just been discontinued, Garrett, and it looks like you've got a picture for us to talk about too.
And yeah, we have a picture, this just in to us from Fernandina Beach, and we may need to take this full screen to kind of show you exactly. And Mike, I want you to take it full screen, not me on the picture. Sorry, I'm talking to the control room. And so that it looks like this will be coming into Fernandina Beach, taken a couple of minutes ago. This was taken by Kevin, who just emailed this to us. Thanks for emailing that, Kevin. And could be a lowering coming in off the Atlantic there. Again, not anything that we can tell that's exactly a waterspout or on the ground or anything, but the dark ness here, right here, showing that lowering is what we just got with that storm coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, with tropical tornadoes, it's so difficult to see definition per se. There certainly is a lowering there. We do appreciate the picture, and it matches with radar and what we were talking about. So it's a possibility that this we don't know for sure. We're still working to see if there's been any damage, but there's a possibility. It's got a funnel shape to it at the very least.
So that's just into us here, and that's not currently happening. That's happened a few minutes ago, but this could have been that was most likely that area of rotation at least coming in off the Atlantic. So that, again, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. But this was probably from that here on First Alert Doppler HD. Again, this is allowed to expire, but we are tracking more areas off in the Atlantic.
This is the latest tornado warning. In other words, there's no tornado warnings any longer in effect, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right.
And we are monitoring more cells off here in the Atlantic. Again, any one of these could all of a sudden start spinning, and then you got to get to your tornado safe place here pretty quick here, especially now lifting to the north of Jacksonville. So we're not talking about Jacksonville. We're talking about Nassau County up into Camden County and also into Glenn County. As these move off to the north and to the west here, there are lightning strikes offshore with tropical cells. We have to watch those, but they really are way offshore. All right, we do have our Ben Becker, or Ben Ryan. We have multiple Bens. Ben Ryan here, who is live, unfortunately, in a fire right now. Let's take you live, Ben.
Yeah, Garrett, we're on Trout River Drive right now. This is an area that has seen a lot of flooding, but within the last half hour, you can tell there's a house fire that JFRD crews are currently working on right now, have been so for at least the last, I would say, 15, 20 minutes or so. It's kind of tough to tell, but you can see there's what looks like a hole in the roof, and that's where a lot of the smoke was coming from. The smoke in general was just much more dense, as time has gone by, and it kind of filled up half this street. That's why we had the mask on, because we started to take a little bit in, but you can see some JFRD crews, again, working on the home. Actually, it looks like there's still a little bit of that smoke along the roof.
And get into a safe place. Lowest part of the building that you're in, away from any windows, an interior hallway.